Fresh notes, nothing on it just yet. What a change from just bringing over pounds and pounds of P's and B's. What a rush. What a fun experience to watch those guys bring it up. But one more time, I've spent my entire Friday upgrading my desk. This time, I've got Chapo. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good. It's going good. How are you doing?
Not bad. Can't complain. Taco's going to join me one more time as we break down the final set for our Friday in Memory of Gabe taking on SoaR. The winner of this will go on to play United, which will be over on Sunday. Let's take a snapshot of where these teams have traveled so far. As I said, the challengers, Oxygen Supremacy, 1, 2, 3 in a row. They're able to win, but in Memory of Gabe comes up a little bit too strong in the last one. What do you think was the really big key for in Memory of Gabe to take that last set?
In my opinion, I think Oxygen's Supremacy was the fatigue was getting to them. You could see it in their decision making, and even in their picks. I mean, that Muzen was so good to pick it last because, like you said, the Chang'e can't pressure a Muzen, and they left him alone.
Yeah, so fun stuff coming out from Memory of Gabe, pulling out the using Cobb pocket to pick. Certainly one of Snoopy's go-tos, but we don't always get to see it. So a lot of fun to see that one. SoaR, on the other hand, this is a team that we haven't seen at all today. They sport a new solo laner, Benji leaving the squad sometime during the spring split, bringing over fineokay, another one of these players from sort of the underbelly of the pro scene, a Challenger Cup player, but a strong player in his own right. What can you tell us about fineokay?
I mean, we got to see a little bit of him towards the end of that initial split that they just passed through, and fineokay's gameplay was absolutely phenomenal from what we were able to see, and it looks like he was the missing puzzle piece that SoaR really needed to start finding their victories.
Yeah, he certainly has looked really strong and certainly have worked out so far. The rest of the team, SoaR, this was one of the teams that was supposed to be one of the more exciting squads. Here they are fighting their way through the Gauntlet, although they've got a pretty nice seat up on top. Going against SoaR, what do you think is one of the harder things that SoaR brings to the table?
Honestly, in my opinion, I think it's their mechanical skill between the jungle and mid. Andy translating to mid doesn't mean his mechanics go away. He's still bringing, the raw snipes, the Scylla ults, the Scylla root crushes, and it's very consistent. Homiefe, being another very mechanical player. I think they bring a powerhouse in between them two.
Yeah, I think that's really the key for me as well, is the fact that Andinster used to be one of the best junglers in the world and steps aside for one of the best junglers in the world. That's not going to break down anytime soon. You combine that with what Andy's been able to do in the mid lane. Now, it didn't start off perfect. Andy did take a little time to really get going, but all of a sudden you started seeing the snipes from downtown. Ra being the main character that we expect to see in the mid lane, but certainly has a number of other gods at his disposal.
Homie and Andy are certainly a dynamic duo, but on the other side of the pond, Gabe are warmed up now, and this was kind of the thing that we talked about when we saw Oxygen facing off against all these other SPL teams, was that they had their initial set against Flashpoint, which allowed them to warm up and start preparing before the fatigue took place a little bit later on in the day, but Gabe are just ready to go at this point in time.
Yeah, speaking to the players, there's a happy medium between being ice cold and a little bit too much internal, and I think that one set is a nice little warm-up spot coming into this one. I've asked all the players so far, how do you feel about being ice cold like SoaR versus a little bit warmed up like Gabe?
In just your shot calling, you're less hesitant. You already warmed up. You already made good calls. So you're relaxed when you just go in. You're like, yo, just fight in my top right mids. You know it's good. And SoaR, your first game, you're like, oh, I don't know if it's good. You're hesitant, and it can affect your play.
Also, there's something to be said about the sort of the mini metas that we see experienced coming out in these lands. Gabe, a little bit more. They've jumped in already. Although, to be honest with you, I don't know if I would identify. I can't really identify anything special or new about this land particularly. It's just been what is Oxygen going to pull out of their bag of tricks, and how can we combat that? So now that we're without that, it kind of just comes back to all SPL in Memory of Gabe versus SoaR, and I think that comes down to, well, one of these guys right here. Support players are going to be a big deal in this matchup. Jigz on your screen right here, certainly a big part of what SoaR's able to do. What's your biggest point, Taco, about this support player?
Well, I don't think that SoaR is even necessarily at too much of a disadvantage here. They've had all day to analyze every single team that's been playing so far. They've had a chance to even potentially try and pull some of Oxygen's strategies, and Jigz alone is a very pensive support player. He likes thinking through every single a possibility, especially whenever games are developing. And he's certainly somebody who's going to pay attention to the little details and utilize those to his team's advantage.
From the outside looking in, Jigz is a cerebral player that leans more aggressively than not, but still keeps his mind on the peel game. What's playing against Jigz like, Chapo?
He's very consistent with the CC. I mean, just like I said, Homiefe Andinster, he sits right there with him in the as in the support. He's a very mechanical support. When you think support, you don't think mechanics. You think, you know, he's good at shot calling. He can analyze, you know, the cooldowns, you know, where to be, where not to be. But he's doing that and being mechanically consistent. So that's where I think he brings his greatness.
Yeah, he's always been one of the more mechanically gifted players over there in the support role. Whether he's in lane or he's traveling across the map, Jigz is always making an impact.
I play for SoaR Gaming. Started off on cognitive gaming in spring of 2015, and then I moved on to a coaching position when I got an offer from Team Solo Mid. I spent that season, the rest of the season, with TSM learning what it takes to make a top team, and then I decided to form SoaR Gaming for the beginning of Season 3. The main goal for this year is to make Worlds, of course. The only team we have any worries facing is United, because they're the only team that we don't really scrim at all, and we also didn't get the chance to play them in the actual split. Yeah, so we had a really rough start. We knew Andinster would be good at mid by like the summer split or like, you know, later on in the year, and we were willing to invest that time and stay together as a roster, and he's actually come a really long way already. But we had a really rough start because we didn't really know what was going on in the meta. We had Benji, who obviously didn't want to be on the team and then pulled that stunt. And we also had a really rough schedule. We started off facing Luminosity and Eager, who mainly kept the rosters the exact same or did keep the roster the exact same. And all those factors combined, and then we had to forfeit because of the Benji situation. So all those factors combined, we started 0-6 actually. But then Andinster had some family issues where he literally could not play in the games, so we had to use a sub for the next one that we've literally never played with before. And we managed to pull a split out against AOG, but after Andy came back, we didn't lose any games with our full roster after we picked up fineokay. So by now we feel like we've found our footing.
Confident as always. SoaR definitely had a couple of struggles along the way, but still Jigz maintains that confident attitude, which I think is so important. A lot of people talk about, you know, especially in this world of esports, everybody's talking about their brand and this, that, or a third. Jigz is just Jigz, and some people aren't going to like that, and that's okay. And that's kind of why I like seeing him play. He's just going to be that guy. He's going to be confident. That's something that you have in common with him. How important is that to bring into your gameplay?
I think you just play your own game. You bring out your own gods. You are who you are when you play, you know what I mean? You bring out what you're good at, and then you make the weakness at what your opponent.
That's why SoaR finds himself sitting at number 2, or I guess number 3. We do have Sunday. Across the way, his support counterpart will be Eonic. He'll be playing for In Memory of Gabe, and it's actually interesting. Eonic and Jigz have played together and have been a part of a unit for a long time.
And I actually really like this matchup because one thing I didn't even consider either was the fact that SoaR really want to progress because they want that game, or that set, I should say, against E United. And if Gabe is the only thing standing in their way, this is going to be a difficult situation all around.
Yeah, I mean, you could hear Jigz try not to, but absolutely had to touch on the Benji situation.
Oh, the sniper was there.
Benji leaving the team mid-spring split, leaving them without a solo laner for a week, forcing the team to forfeit an entire week's worth of points, arguably why they're here in the Gauntlet instead of already at Masters. So certainly a score that SoaR in general, Jigz included, wants to settle, but that's after the hurdle of In Memory of Gabe, and great friend Eonic stands in the way. We broke down Jigz as one of the more mechanically gifted players, in the support role. Well, Eonic, he's got some mechanics, but I always look at him as more of the shot caller game plan guy.
Eonic seems more like the brawler kind of support. If anything, he's like a bit of a hybrid between the Pain to Beyond and Trix tank to a certain extent. He's aggressive when he needs to be, and we've seen that before when he's been pulling out Hercules support, for instance, but at the same time, he can also do the peeling aspect of things with Sylvanas, Sobek even, and just all around, pretty well rounded.
Yeah, he's able to really do a lot. Here you can see him just kind of lost in thought, perhaps not lost, but at least just thinking about this next matchup. A lot of interesting directions that In Memory of Gabe and SoaR can walk in, but honestly, I think it all comes down to the jungle here. Supports are perhaps the heart and soul of these two teams. I think you look at Jigz and Eonic as the leaders, as the go-to guys to really listen to. But Homiefe, the Iron Homie, he's going to be doing the heavy lifting. Small in stature, but large in basically everything else. This guy is going to really try and do whatever he can to bring a win for his team. And honestly, it's not that far-fetched. Homiefe, one of the best damn players in the whole league, if you ask me.
And I agree. And being a jungler myself, I'm excited to see Cyno versus Homie. They both have around the same god pool, the Thor, the Susanoo. They're very aggressive, in-your-face junglers, but they also could bring out the Chang'e, which is like really big right now. And I just want to see it the way who sets the pace, because I think they both are pretty good at that.
See, that's the key for me. I think that Cynosure has always Cynosure going back into the console side, excuse me. He has a play style. He's definitely one of the more aggressive styles. And Taku and I agreed before during the analysis segment about Chang'e. It's there, but it's not perhaps his top shelf pick. A player like Homiefe, on the other hand, can play both sides of that coin, and that's why I'm so excited about this jungle matchup. Because Homiefe is going to play whatever he wants, but Cynosure right here, he's going to pick the Thor, he's going to pick the Blink Cat, and he's just going to zigzag all over the place. This guy, I mean, you played against him both on PC and in the console world. What can you tell us about Cynosure?
He's improved like crazy. I mean, his decision making in the past probably like year, I've seen it, you know, turn into a very disciplined player. And coming to PC and being surrounded by these top tier players, you know, Eonic, Snoopy, you evolve even faster than you would normally. And I think, you know, we're starting to see that as he's almost in the finals.
That was a question that I was going to pose to you, making the transition from console to PC yourself. You know, you brought a teammate of your own, Uzi, and your team Noble is very much a project team, whereas In Memory of Gabe comes through with 4 arguable superstars and then grabs Cynosure. What do you think that experience was like for him, just being thrust here in the spotlight?
I think it was probably a great feeling, you know, knowing these guys. You almost look up to them when you're from the Xbox team, because Xbox is looked a little bit down upon compared to the SPL. And these guys, you know, were on the top tier teams, and like you said, they're a superstar. So just getting pushed in there, it means you got to show up, and you have no other option. And you know, he's done it.
And not only has he done it, he's done it with bells on. He comes out, he smiles, I've never really seen Cynosure stutter step or sort of question himself. He's always been confident. There's never been a, am I supposed to be in this pro league? Yes, I'm an SPL player, hear me roar. Really want to see him on this Thor, honestly. I want to see him on a Blink Cat. I want to see what Cynosure can do in the jungle. In Memory of Gabe has the first pick and the first ban. In Memory of Gabe versus SoaR.
I can imagine that Kabrakan's probably going to be one of the top bans immediately for either side, really. I just don't see these teams trying to give up any immediate meta picks.
Yeah, I think it's both of these teams. So when we look across the way at teams like Oxygen Supremacy, teams like Flashpoint even, these teams have their individual worlds locked down where their picks are a little bit different. United comes to mind, Eager, where they have their own team identity. In Memory of Gabe and SoaR Gaming are the two teams that really play truest to the meta, I would say. Them and LG are the ones that really just stick to what's norm. So expect a lot of Ra, Kabrakan, Sylvanas. I expect a Chang'e ban here, in all honesty.
Or Scotty.
There's the Scotty. I would rather see Scotty over Chang'e because I don't think that SoaR really need to be concerned about Chang'e. No hate to Cynosure. Like I mentioned before, he is a talented player by all means. But the issue here is I just don't think his Chang'e is on the same level as these other junglers, and you don't want to put yourself, or I guess in the mindset of SoaR, they would probably prefer to see him on the Chang'e, but I think that Cyno going Chang'e is a bit of a disadvantage.
Instead, we get the first pick, Fafnir. That is a little bit, I warned everybody, look, we're going to see super normal stuff. Fafnir, first pick, a little bit out of the ordinary.
I don't think it's that out of the ordinary, though. Fafnir is actually, as far as like talking to a lot of the pro players, most of them prefer Fafnir at the moment, and they really like the damage and aggression that he can provide, and it just goes so hand in hand with the Eonic's playstyle.
Over the choices of the Zeus or the Thoth or the Thor even?
I mean, Gabe get the Thor and the Thoth, and giving up Terra and Zeus, sure, they lose that little bit of sustain, and they also have to keep in mind that Zeus can potentially be a problem, but I think that Fafnir is excellent at getting in the face of Zeus because he has the immunity on his ultimate, because he can deal so much damage alone and provide that hard CC stun out with his hammer, and that's just enough setup alongside of a Thor and a Thoth to really punish any kind of misplays by the Zeus.
Right now, SoaR Gaming, Terra, Zeus, and Artemis, they are going to need some sort of peel. With Thor selected on the side of Gabe's, Chapo, what jungle selection would you like to see to help these immobile characters out?
I was thinking bots, and immediately they respond with the bots ban because they have very little mobility. You're gonna need someone with control. And I was gonna say, come back to the Fafnir real quick. If you think about back to SoaR Gaming, like that was their solidified pick for Jigz. But I also like the Osiris ban because it's a great bully for these people, for the gods with no mobility. Right. Zeus, Terra, Artemis. So that was a great ban on their end.
So, coming back to it, Zeus and Artemis, are we going to see if Andy was playing in the jungle, I would say we're going to see the Herc jungle, right? Something with heavy amounts of control. I'm with you. What choice would you go?
I would probably go...
This is where you listen to stealth.
Yeah, Drelo, what do I go?
So Ratatasker might be your choice here. Interesting selection. Still waiting on our last bans. Both In Memory of Gabe and SoaR have one at their disposal. Amaterasu will be the ban of choice for SoaR Gaming. In Memory of Gabe has one themselves.
Honestly, if In Memory of Gabe don't ban away the Susano, I would like to see Homie pick that option because it not only provides a lot of setup for the Zeus, but just the mobility alone. We saw how much success Skilodon has had across the map from one side to the next. That's kind of what Susano does best, and it provides enough early presence alongside of the Zeus for SoaR to not really be at a downfall with the Artemis in the duo lane.
Ares will be the Guardian, which means Terra likely to be in the solo lane. Still, no jungler just yet. Two choices left on In Memory of Gabe. I'm still thinking about this jungle pick. I mean, I guess we could see the triple Guardian Athena jungle, perhaps. I don't know.
It looks like they're trying to fight. They're trying to fight with a group fighting because with the Ares, so they picked Zeus, Artemis. You have to stay on top of them and keep them alive. So now we know Terra's going solo, obviously, because Ares is picked for support. Yep. So for sure they're looking to fight as a unit. So I'm thinking something. Susano could be good because the ultimate to stay together and have a multi-man ultimate.
Susano, I think, Susano is probably the easiest normal pick here, depending on how far off the reservation SoaR want to walk into. In Memory of Gabe, finish up their draft. Fafnir and Medusa will be the dual lane. Thor in the jungle, Thoth mid, and then the short man in the short lane, Vamana. SoaR Gaming, they're going to stick Terra in the solo lane, Zeus in the mid. Artemis and Ares will make up the dual lane. And the final pick, I'm still scratching my head. And SoaR Gaming, they're going to have to pick soon. Vetium, the hunter on your screen right there. No input as far as he's concerned. Just let his jungler figure that one out.
Yeah, he's got his god locked away already. He's just AFK coasting on that Artemis, much like what I can anticipate him to try to do in lane, having to play that matchup passively. Ares is definitely kind of a risk pick with the Artemis in that duo because they won't necessarily have the same kind of clear that a Medusa and Fafnir will provide early on.
I like how you put that. It's going to be abysmal in juxtaposition. Thanatos is your jungler of choice. A little bit of peel by way of surprise ultimates early on, but as the game gets later and later, that peel is going to become more dangerous and more of a liability to use instead of the execute. So we'll see if SoaR Gaming can set their team up early for a late game extravaganza, or if In Memory of Gabe just shuts them down. On the call, it's going to be Hindu and Aggro. Bring it to us.
Thanks so much, analysts. And now, if you've just tuning in, don't worry. We're back to our regular scheduled broadcast of
SPL teams
that should be against each other and not Challenger Cup teams that have done the run all day.
I mean, for my money, I would have liked to see Oxygen keep on going, but obviously this is the matchup that we kind of expected at this stage. Gabe up against SoaR, two very, very, very talented teams that are trying to hit their strides at different times. SoaR definitely struggled towards the beginning, started off the split 0-6, and then turned it around undefeated when they've got this full roster of Andinster and fineokay. So they're definitely hot right now. It's just a matter of if Gabe can continue their streak that they started against Oxygen.
Now I'm looking at SoaR's composition here because I'm looking at it. I can see there's a nice scale as you look through it from early game all the way transition to late game. So they've got something at every single stage that could happen that Memory of Gabe could throw at them.
This Ares pick definitely surprised me because Jigz is known to play aggressive supports, and he wants to build selfish. He wants to build the damage a little bit and try and be that kind of support carry. But this Ares pick is phenomenal here. Now, I just don't know how comfortable Jigz is going to be on it. But what do we always talk about when it comes to Jigz? It's support mechanics, one of the most mechanically gifted supports in the SPL. Ares certainly demanding in that aspect, but if there's someone who could do it, it's probably Jigz.
And I have a feeling that Vetium may be left alone in a 2v1 because of the Ares. Ares in the wave clear at the early game isn't the greatest here, aggro, and I don't think it's something that SoaR will want to take on a 2v2 in that lane at all. Artemis may just have to stay under the tower, and as I mentioned a minute ago, that's a late game god Artemis. They can just leave it to farm up and allow for the map elsewhere to dictate.
Well, I hope Vetium was watching from the get-go today because Xenotronics in the first game of the day. It might feel like a long time ago because it was a long time ago. But that was Xenotronics' plan, and it didn't work out for Flashpoint. Vetium needs to do a better job than Xeno did of playing safe early on in the lane.
Well, two junglers, Homiefe and Andinster. Now Andinster is a mid lane, will group up together, but round the back comes Whalrus. And this time round, SoaR, they've been watching games all day long. All day long they have sat and watched these games in the audience, and they fall for the bait that we've seen so many times teams escape.
And we saw Gabe try and do this earlier, and what has Oxygen Supremacy been doing all day long? Warding those back heartbeat, those mid heartbeats around that intersection. SoaR does not, and they pay for it immediately. Andinster not only falls for first blood, but has to use his purification beads as well.
It was an interesting trick there as well, though, from Memory of Gabe, because SoaR do have lane advantage in that. With the Thanatos and the Zeus, they should clear a little bit quicker than that of the Thoth and the Thor as well, but it's not enough. With the wraparound, they didn't expect it, and they paid the price.
Because Hurriwind takes that minion aggro, but then stays far enough back that it's not going to hurt him too much. Ooh. The spin is just enough to clear those minions, as well as do the damage to Andinster.
Well, that lacerate there was the reason I was so excited for a minute, because the lacerate damage in the early game is a lot more than most players expect. Good chain from Jigz, though, second to follow, and the third could have waited a little bit longer if he wanted to there to get maximum potential of damage out, but he did a good enough poke to force Eonic to meditate.
Oh, Andy in trouble again in the mid lane. Cyno taking a couple tower shots. One more auto is all that needed, but Hurriwind can't quite find it. Good news for Gabe, though, is that Andy has to back again. Another wave is going to be missed here by Andinster.
On the left-hand side, though, a lot of those minions are going to die to the tower there, which means they're not going to give gold credit to the duo lane of SoaR Gaming here early on. Vetium was going for poke on Snoopy over going for the wave clear, which is always one of those risks to make, and now Cynosure wrapping round the back.
I don't think Vetium and Jigz know. There's a teleport in and walls off Jigz beautifully. Cynosure setting up for his team. Snoopy going to be able to put down Jigz for number 2.
And the worst thing as an Ares is to get behind in the early game. And one thing that can happen with walls from Cynosure like that, you don't have the ability to leap over them and get away like some of the other Guardians do.
And I love the decision to use the hammer just to get in position to wall them off. Cyno knows exactly how much damage his duo lane is going to do, knows he doesn't need that double tap in order to secure the kill, just needs to block him off.
It's relying on his team more often than not because they play together so much now that, listen, all I've got to do is set up the CC, and these guys, they will be the executioners of this gank.
And these are veteran players that Cynosure is playing with as well. Eonic and Snoopy, they've been duo laning forever. I was talking to Eonic during our little player interview segment that we do during these LANs, and he was saying that he and Snoopy, they aren't like Jeff and Barra, who have also been laning together forever, but you hear the communication all the time. They're always talking. Eonic says he just knows what Snoopy's going to do, and Snoopy knows what Eonic's going to do. They don't even need to say it most of the time.
It's because they play together so much that they know what each other's routes are, whether they're going to swing left, swing right, will they throw the auto here, will they throw the ability here, and that's just things with playing together and over again. Most people at home do know their friends as well, because the bad news is, though, the friends that I play with, when I go, all right, I know what they're going to do, it generally means they're going to die.
Are you talking about me right now?
No, we're not friends.
Good,
but you do die.
Well, I do, but you don't know it. I surprise you with
You do as much
deaths.
damage as stealth. That's the main thing.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's a compliment. That's a lot
the
of damage.
only one you're going to get. 2-0, though, to Memory of Gabe early on here. Gold lead is about 1,000 so far. No Gold Fury taken between the two teams yet, but the raid buff is being looked at by Memory of Gabe as Snoopy is trying to have his way with Vetium.
And this is exactly what Snoopy wants to do in this lane, is just continue to bully out Vetium, not let him get to those later game stages. And then all of Gabe is on that same page with Snoopy, because this red buff invade is great, because yes, you're getting that farm, but you're taking it away from Vetium.
Cynosure to the sky, down onto Andinster, who's beads to avoid the stun, turns the damage around with the ultimate himself, but Hurriwind has been left alone to get a lot of free damage off. Homiefe wants the dunk, finds the dunk, but he can't find the kill!
Not quite yet. Cyno gonna stun him out, and Hurriwind finishes off Homie. Jigz doesn't have any cooldowns. He's gonna survive. Cyno gets out.
Well, there's no escape for Jigz there, you get it?
He's only level 4, though.
There was no escape from him either. Snoopy's a bit off a little bit more than he could chew, but a fantastic beads will get him away from the root that was coming out from fineokay. Touching on fineokay now, yes, it's Memory of Gabe in the lead, but fineokay's had a pretty good season so far for this SoaR roster.
Oh, his stats are just through the roof. I mean, he played in a very limited number of games, but had like near perfect performances in almost every one of them. I mentioned it right before we got into game. SoaR with both Andinster and fineokay, undefeated. So you know that they've got a lot of synergy despite being only together for a couple of weeks now.
Well, you say they're undefeated, but right now they're already down 4-0 at 5 minutes in. And 3 of those kills are already on the Thoth, played by Hurriwind in the mid lane, which is not something you really want to do.
No, very, very scary, especially with how we've seen Thoth be played so far. Hurriwind had an unbelievable performance up against Oxygen Supremacy in Game 2 of their set on the Thoth. He's already finished off that Doom Orb. Andinster still hasn't completed his boots yet. You know that Hurriwind is going to do a good job of pushing this lead that he's earned for himself along with his teammates.
Now, even though Thoth and Giannis are both different characters, they do have very similar positioning in the team fights. Very much so in the back front, looking to support the team and get consistent damage out. Thoth can do the same thing, and Hurriwind is a fantastic Giannis player, so his Thoth should be along the same standard.
But it's a little bit more set up for the team as Homiefe takes over half of his HP, right around 3/4, just because of that double tap damage. Cynosure didn't need that damage earlier on to find a kill in the duo lane, but showing Homiefe exactly how much is going to do in mid.
Well, left-hand side, there's a lot of contest between the two hunters over the oracles at the Gold Fury there. Still not sure who's got it as we zoom in. It was a 1-for-1 trade, so it's Ward Wars that will be the winner of that battle for now. But look, just look at how much damage that tier 1 in mid has taken already.
And with Andy's dead once and has to back again at level 2, it's just a lot of waves being pushed in. Hurriwind has been rotating around, invading red with the rest of his team. It's not like he's been standing there autoing down the tower. But at half HP and how good Thoth's tower push is with that Glyph of Pain, at this stage, if they kill Andinster or force him back, Hurriwind could get that tower down within 1 wave.
Now, we mentioned SoaR's composition is pretty good at all stages, but the early game is not going their way at all. Vetium under pressure again in the duo lane, thanks to the pressure from Cynosure, who did come in with the ultimate there. Vetium's ultimate in response and beads will keep him alive for now.
But it was also that Terra's Blessing out of fineokay, one of the longer cooldowns in the game, so now SoaR has to be a little bit more worried about if they engage Vetium. He's going to get petrified underneath his tower. Snoopy continues.
Homiefe gets medied from Jigz to keep him alive enough, but Jigz stunned out before he can close the gap. Andinster gets a nice chain lining off onto 2, but it's not going to stop Memory of Gabe by looking for their 3rd red buff of the game.
Vetium just has not been able to keep any pressure whatsoever in this duo lane side. And you know that Gabe knows how to play against these immobile late game hunters, because Snoopy can play those mobile late game hunters. Look what he just did on Amuz and Cobb last game up against Oxygen Supremacy. This is what should have happened to Snoopy. They're doing it to Vetium here.
Well, right now as well, take into account the Memory of Gabe did just play a best of 3 up against Oxygen. So they have the stage presence now. They're used to playing at LAN this time round, and the warm-up is really there for them. They're taking it to SoaR early on. SoaR kind of have to weather the storm here, Aggro.
That's true, and all these players on Gabe have played at LAN before. They're all fairly comfortable. Homiefe in a bit of trouble in his jungle, in a lot of trouble. Whalrus not quite able to find that last auto to put him down out of that hovering death. I
tell you what, that bluestone tick, just one more, could have spelled doom for him. Left-hand side, Cynosure, babysitting a little bit more into Snoopy. Not a bad thing to say babysitting, because it's allowing so much pressure on the right. I believe Memory of Gabe stole that speed.
I do believe you are correct, but fineokay is sitting even level right now up against the Vamana, and as Terra, that's not what you usually expect, but because of how little pressure there has been from outside of this lane, fineokay has been able to hang on for now, and if he can rotate into these team fights and make an impact in the mid game, just in peeling for Andinster and Vetium. That's what's needed in these team fights. It's just about peeling for these carries, and fineokay is on the perfect character to do that.
And the problem is now for Homiefe is he's equal level with Eonic, who's playing that Fafnir now. You saw the hammer through the wall. That was just to get those gold stacks from the Talaria, and Homiefe is forced out from contesting these Ryan Harpies.
Jigz wants to keep fighting, though. There's the chain onto Eonic. Cynosure up into that Anvil of Dawn. Eonic forced up into the Draconic form as Hurriwind deletes Homiefe with the final judgment.
When you've got that many Doom Mob stacks already, you're going to spell an instant problem. Andinster will get one, but to get taken down in response from Whalrus. Whalrus is looking for Jigz, though, and that will fall to Snoopy, who's made a rotation along with Vetium, but Vetium can't do much against the army of Gabe.
Cynosure is not getting rewarded for his play so far. 0-0 and 6, but he's played great. Tier 1 tower falls. Snoopy stunned out. There's the 180 Petrify, and Cynosure finally gets a kill to his own name. 9-1 now in favor of In Memory of Gabe.
And no investment into the Gold Fury straight away from Gabe here. They realize they're low on mana, so instead they're going to play it safe, fall back, spend the gold, just get the oracles so they can keep an eye in case SoaR try to take it themselves.
This is one of those moments where, you know, SoaR is the top seed. They've been sitting around all day watching, like you mentioned, and you kind of, it's been a long day. These games haven't been particularly short. And all of a sudden, you just get hit in the mouth. As soon as you start this game, Vetium just gets hit right in the mouth. Andinster does as well. And they just haven't been able to wake up from that. We just hit 10 minutes, and Gabe is up 5,000 gold.
They're just stuck in the starting blocks, it feels like. The race has begun, but they've not really heard the gunfire just yet, and they're still sat there waiting to begin this one. But Memory of Gabe, meanwhile, they're already halfway down the track.
Yeah, they're off to a great start this game, and it's not like their late game is lacking by any stretch of the imagination. Hurriwind on this Thoth is going to be a force come late game. Gold Fury going to go down instantly due to the lead that In Memory of Gabe has, and that's going to push that lead to right around 7,000.
So where do you go as Gabe now? Because the Gold Fury down in the Tier 1 in mid, do we start looking for the Tier 1 in left and right? Because you're not really worried about fighting them now. You're so far ahead that you could take on a 5v5 fight or even a 4v5 and potentially come out on top.
I like this decision. It looks like they're posturing around this Portal Demon. That could be the call. Just get a little bit more global gold for your team. Or it's okay to spread out and farm. Look at the levels on In Memory of Gabe. Most aren't even level 12 yet. You've only got Whalrus and Snoopy with Cynosure just now digging level 12. Get those second relics, push that lead a little bit farther with those defensive options, and once you've got multiple members with second relics, that's when you try and force the next fight.
Biggest issue I see is Homiefe being so many levels down. 4 levels down against Cynosure, but 2 levels down against Eonic. That's just the difference. Supports are always the lowest level in a game, and right now, it's not them, it's Homiefe, and they picked the Thanatos last pick here.
Yeah, they did, and it just has not worked out so far. Tier 1 tower on left is going to fall without much issue. 500 gold more in favor of Gabe.
Could be a quick bath for SoaR here, but now Cynosure to the sky again, finds 2 with a dunk. The beads from Homiefe will keep him alive. Wrath of Terra will also speed him up to get away. No escape from Jigz, didn't really bring anybody for a ride, as Hurriwind is challenging the judgment. He doesn't want to take it just yet though, but look where fineokay is.
He shoots it and finds one. Vetium walked right into it. fineokay gonna have to dash away. Too many members that are just too healthy on the side of Gabe.
And now they can just walk away back to safety again real quick. 10-1 after a couple of pickups and one more time with Vetium falling down yet again. Devour's Gauntlets are online.
4 stacks?
4 stacks.
4 stacks. We're out. We really out here.
It's the best way you can do. I mean, to be fair, like, he's had a rough time. 2v1 in the lane at the start. Focus from by Cynosure. This is just good play from Memory of Gabe. There's no reason to allow Vetium to get away with it.
Certainly, and Vetium, this kind of surprises me because Vetium, the last few lands we've seen him at, he's been absolutely lights out. I mean, Super Regionals last year, playing under Flashpoint, looked great there at their group stages. He looked phenomenal as well. So I was really counting on him to have a really solid land showing, and just hasn't had it so far today.
Well, Whalrus is going to find 3 members in his lane right now, as Jigz will turn up to the fray too. Not going to mess around too much though. Immediately just pop the big baby when he realizes it was a 3rd rotation out of Jigz there. He'll be fine to fall back after getting what he wanted there anyway, which was the Tier 1.
He's 5 levels up on Homiefe and Jigz right now. No chance that either of them do enough damage to knock him down as long as he has that ultimate available.
Well, half health for the Portal Demon now. fineokay on the forefront. Homiefe and Jigz in the backlines, but Snoopy and Whalrus are also there too. Flanking from the left, and fineokay's the one that's going to dash away first. Once again, Cynosure's ulting on cooldown pretty much right now. Seems to be just staring at the map from his point of view.
And Jigz is already dead, so why not just go back to the the objective, that's exactly what Gabe is going to do. Portal Demon falls. Homiefe walks into the middle of everybody. He's going to fall to the final judgment of Hurriwind. There's fineokay in the middle of everybody. Nice ultimate out of Andy, but it's just not enough damage.
Well, it's also, he'll get one from the detonate, but Eonic did a lot of work there by stunning out Andy and forcing him back, because Andy could have put a lot more damage down if potentially left alone. Didn't allow that to happen, so they only lose Snoopy, who won't be too disappointed there overall for the fact that Memory of Gabe got away with so much.
12-2 now in kills. That gold lead up right around 10,000, just short of it. That dreaded 5 digits that you got to worry about.
It's an awkward position for SoaR to be in. At the same time, you could put this one to bed in one way, but it's still not over just yet. My concern for SoaR in the draft, when you look back at this now, is the fact that they knew Vetium was going to be in an awkward position playing the Artemis, and they drafted an Ares as well. Both those are not early game gods that control unless you get ahead as the Ares.
No, but that Ares was just so tempting because it shut down this draft from Gabe so well. If he could have just stayed even, if he could have just been a little bit ahead, Jigz could have won this game by himself with the Ares pick. It's just a matter of we third-picked Artemis. I just don't think that was necessarily warranted that early on in the draft.
Well, right now it's just Memory of Gabe swinging around the map. The Oracles are going to go to Snoopy. Eonic's just making sure the back harpies aren't being done and keeping vision on where SoaR are. And this is how confident Eonic can be now with how this game's going. He can go in the jungle and box a Hunter and just walk away.
Look at how much damage Vetium did to him. Almost zero. Negligible damage.
At this point, your coerce is pretty much maxed out on the Fafnir as well, so you're going to get that consistent heal available to yourself. So yeah, take a bit of poke, heal yourself back up, and at the same time, you're keeping Artemis from farming once more.
Plus, you got a Traveler's proc there, or Talaria proc, so you're good to go. You got a couple extra gold.
That's all supports care about. I'm not joking. You know the way junglers care about speed buff?
Yeah.
Talaria procs is the dream. As many as you can. Even if you die for it, you're like, hey, I hit 5 with Talaria proc, I'm good.
You should just buy Talaria off the beginning of the game and walk into the enemy jungle and smack everyone for a bunch of gold.
Listen, I've seen a team do that once upon a time and the game ended in 3 minutes. I wouldn't advise that to too many teams out there, just as a heads up. You will not be on Oxygen's level by that point. You'll be on a different teams.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just going to...
Oh, don't worry. You don't want to know. Trust me. 12-2. Gold Fury started up again and taken by Memory of Gabe for the second time so far this game.
And just the control is too much out of Gabe. SoaR can't even come close to walking in. Hell, they can't even go where their tier 1 tower used to be. Jigz already falling very low. Final Judgment gonna knock him back down after the meditation, but he will be able to escape to the safety of his tower.
First pole wall this game coming out from Cynosure. They actually stopped the pickup of Jigz. I think we would have seen Whalrus and Eonic be able to get there, but the wall angle actually cut off his team and didn't find the stun he was after to make sure they could confirm the kill. They'll be happy with the win, though, because getting Jigz' ultimate means they don't have to worry too much about burning beads in the next engagement.
And Hurriwind already has a lot of CDR with the Sands of Time, with the Spear of Desolation as well, so that ultimate going to be up soon enough to make an impact. And the more important thing, I think, is Jigz' meditation being down for a while. There is no sustain on the side of SoaR outside of fineokay, and fineokay hasn't had the luxury of standing around with his monolith up healing his team because everyone's had to keep running away.
Can we have a little look at the net worth, please? Because at the moment we see player damage, I just want to see the net worth. Normally we like to keep on player damage after 10 minutes, but that is a talking point in itself.
That's gross. That's gross. I mean, the lowest member of Gabe
is 1,000 gold.
1,000 gold up on the enemy solo laner. That tells you how deep this hole is for SoaR. Everyone significantly behind the gold difference, over 11,000, XP over 10,000, and we're not even close to 20 minutes, really. We're only at 17.
I can almost read Twitch chat now going, where's Oxygen? Because Oxygen are playing better than SoaR were, but give credit where it's due. Memory of Gabe are playing lights out this game, and a lot of people use lights out overly, in my opinion. This is a lights out game right now.
They had an early strategy, and they've executed it to perfection. I don't know if their draft necessarily had a strategy. It was just, hey, this is what SoaR drafted. Here's how we beat it, and they did it. Exactly. Even for minute 1, where it's in the mid lane, you killed the immobile mage at level 1 because he can't get away from the slow from Whalrus.
Really almost feels like we've got a different meta with this set between Memory of Gabe and SoaR than we have the rest of the day against Oxygen, where Oxygen came in with their own strategies and their own style, and now it's kind of like business as usual for the SPL boys against SPL boys. Jigz and Mid going to eat a little bit more damage now, but he's starting to be able to eat some of that. Now he's got the Thebes online.
That extra HP, and don't remember, not only is this defense for Jigz, but it's offense as well. That Ares passive, now that he has an aura item online, going to be able to give him a little bit of extra power, which is much needed at this stage.
I will also say that Jigz has done a very good job of staying even. Even though we were talking about, the Ares being behind in 0-4, he's still even with Eonic here. As long as you're even with your support, you're doing okay.
Is that all it is? It doesn't matter that he's like 3,000 gold down?
Technically, you can be 2 levels down and still be fine as a support. That's just normal. There's a 2-level fluctuation that can happen in the support role that isn't doom and gloom for you. If it gets past 2, that's when you're starting to struggle. Being even, being down in gold, you're used to that. You play support anyway.
See, I gotta give some shout-outs to Andinster here. He's up against a Thoth that's 6-0-4 and is only 1 level behind. Portal Demon does go the way of Gabe, despite fineokay just being a little nuisance in their face. Not really worried about that. They're worried about the objective. Vetium.
One hit. Bluestone. Aegis forced by Vetium. Very well done by Vetium, though, to realize that. Homiefe, once again, did not find his ultimate onto Snoopy. And Snoopy's going to box both of them. Level 16 versus level 11 and 12. Cynosure's going to come down.
And there's the dunk, but Snoopy's the one that gets it anyways. Jigz walled off. There's the no escape, but doesn't pull in
really
anybody.
Nobody wants to escape from Memory of Gabe. They want to take this fight again. Andy's trying to get off damage, and he will get the detonate onto Hurriwind, but Whalrus will clean up Jigz in the tail end, and now Andy's under pressure.
And walled off once more by Cynosure, going around. The double tap is good, but the bluestone isn't quite enough to knock down Andinster. Eonic still locked in place from fineokay. But Snoopy and Eonic, I don't think they want to give this up quite yet.
I think with how this game's going, they just want to fight all day long, and I would at 11,000 gold too. They've got themselves in such a comfortable position, but the longer they continue to fight these engagements here, Aggro, and not get more objectives on the map, is the windows are allowing SoaR windows back in.
I mean, Andinster's now 3-2-0. He's putting out quite a bit of damage. He's second in the game right now, despite that poor early start. He's got some good HP, the physical defense as well from the Dynasty Plate Helm. So you're right, there is the window still for SoaR, but it is not a big window. It is a very, very small opening.
No, the gold lead is definitely the biggest issue for them. The experience is another one, but it's not as detrimental to them when you look down the list. There's a 1 or 2 level difference between most of them. Biggest difference, once again, is the Homiefe, which we keep touching on. And having a Thanatos that is behind isn't the greatest thing in the world, but as the game goes on, Thanatos becomes more of a CC bot and an executor, so you don't have to worry too much about him being behind in levels, even though his execute threshold is on the low side.
Right now, yes, but if I'm Homiefe, I start prioritizing leveling my ult. Sometimes you wait until you've maxed out Scent of Death and your Scythe, but at this stage, I don't care about any other ability. I'm only looking, exactly, I'm looking for the executes, and with how Andinster's been playing pretty safe, you can do that damage from a distance and maybe set up Homiefe.
So just not managing to get anywhere in time right now as Memory of Gabe will take down the 3rd gold fury of the game for themselves at less than 21 minutes in. fineokay was the nearest one to getting involved, and he's been forced to Wrath of Terra to get away.
Every time that ultimate, just use it defensively, no aggression whatsoever out of SoaR in any lane. The one lane they were supposed to have pressure in, that got thrown out the window right away after the first blood. But it really wasn't even the first blood. It was when Andinster almost died a second time where he had to back at level 2 that really threw that lane in Gabe's favor.
Well, now the Fire Giant started up by Memory of Gabe. Wrath of Terra is on cooldown. All ultimates available for both teams outside of that, but Jigz has already fallen to the Petrify of Snoopy. Cynosure goes onto Vetium. Vetium returns some good damage there thanks to the boar, and the boar will ding through every single member of Memory of Gabe, and a Meditate will heal them back up.
And now 4 members coerced by Eonic up in that Draconic form. This Fire Giant not going to stand for long. fineokay thinking about throwing away his life to try and steal it, but I don't know if it would make even a difference.
If they lose this Fire Giant, I'm pretty sure the day is done. If they can find a steal with Andinster over the wall, looking to get it. No, Memory of Gabe will secure their own Fire Giant, and SoaR have to limp back to their tier 2 towers that will not be standing much longer.
Oh, we're only 22 minutes in, but this game has felt like it's gone on for an eternity, I'm sure, for the players of SoaR. They've just been getting beaten down since minute 1.
Tier 2 tower, the mid lane is the major focus point for Memory of Gabe here. Obviously on the right-hand side, there was a couple of members there. No minions, different story in the mid lane though. They're going to be able to pressure and take it for free.
1,500 more gold. Left side tower seems to be the focus, and that's what you expect because it's a little bit easier to march up that right-hand side to grab that Portal Demon on the back end if you want to, after you back and spend this gold that you've earned for
Love
yourself.
the use of the Thoth wall there, just to allow Snoopy to get extra damage through that wall. That's why the projectiles change through it, increasing the amount those in-hands can do. Not a lot of teams are really utilizing that as well as I expected this tournament so far.
That ability is insane. Glyph of Pain is one of those abilities. It's like kind of like when Giannis came out, and everyone's like, yeah, Threshold's good, but obviously you level Portal after Unstable Vortex. No. Unstable Vortex, you level that first, then it's Threshold. Glyph of Pain is an insanely good ability. It's one of the reasons why Thoth kind of does a lot of things that people don't expect, and his sieging and objective damage is absolutely through the roof for standard mages just because of Glyph of Pain. He can siege towers, not quite as well as SoaR Kronos, but better than almost every other mage.
Just seeing that wall in front of a tower and you see a Thoth stand behind it, you're like, well, I have to stay at over 55 units away from them. Over Hunter auto attack range just to make sure I'm safe and I'm not going to take 3 damage.
Oh, and he's already doing extra damage to that tower through that Glyph of Pain, so if you back up and allow him to do damage, he'll take it very, very easily. And God forbid if there's an ADC who's shooting through that as well, adding to their damage, it just gets crazy really fast.
So since literally the first wave that came in, SoaR have been on the back foot here. It goes back to that mid lane play where the wraparound happened. And since then, Memory of Gabe have just continued to strangle SoaR out of this game completely. What needs to change for game 2? Do we run the same comp and just not make the early game mistakes? Is that all it is?
Yes and no. I still wouldn't pick the Artemis again. I just don't think it's worth the risk that you're running at this stage. But I know Vetium is very, very comfortable on it, and he's very good at it. I still think I would give Vetium a more pressure god in that lane. His ROM's phenomenal.
Memory of Gabe looking to finish off this Phoenix. Nice little limit from Jigz, but it's not enough to stop Memory of Gabe. Jigz already taken out. fineokay in the back did a good job peeling, but Vetium's under pressure once more from Whalrus, who's been forced all the way back to his fountain.
Phoenix fell. During all that time, that's all just a distraction to make sure that right side Phoenix falls. Exactly what happens. Eonic dashes forward, trying to find Homiefe, and Cynosure comes around the back and cleans him up. Number 3 for the jungler for Gabe. Middle Phoenix falling low. fineokay is the lightning storm is used to try and get him out of danger, but it doesn't defend anything. Gabe take another objective.
And now to the final Phoenix that's left standing. Whalrus will tack this up for his team. No ultimate available, but I don't even think they need it, because Snoopy shooting through the wall of Thoth will bring it down. 3 Phoenixes down, 17-3 in 25 minutes. I expected this from the first side of the day, potentially, but not the last one.
But this is what happens in these long days of games. I mean, it's incredibly draining to be playing consistently, and that could definitely take a toll on you. But sometimes when you've been sitting here all day, you've been thinking about your matchup all day, and then the time finally comes, then you just get destroyed from minute 1. That can be really, really draining and really difficult to come back from.
There is benefits to the Gauntlet of being a lower seed because of the fact you get to warm up if you can get through the games. So look at Memory of Gabe game 1. Memory of Gabe lost game 1, 2 oxygen, but once they got that warm-up game under their belt, they did come back into it. SoaR could do the same.
Absolutely, they could. I think lower seed, it's just too difficult. I mean, Oxygen Supremacy would have had to win 10 games today in order to move on. That's just a ridiculous number for any team, let alone a team that's supposed to be at a disadvantage because they're down out of the Challenger Cup.
Sure.
Gabe is in the perfect spot in my mind in the Gauntlet. You don't want to be at the top because you can kind of get not ready, you don't get warmed up, you come in cold. But Gabe is in the right spot where you're up against a team that you feel like you should be able to beat. That's where you get your warm-up games in, and then you get the confidence, and that's when you play the top-tier teams.
Well, the winner of this best of 3 will go on to face United on Sunday to claim themselves potentially the #1 spot in the split for North America. And the loser of that still gets a second chance to go to Masters as well if they can beat Europe in an international best of 1.
That's right. We're going to have 2 international sets on Sunday, both regional. You have your NA finals, your EU finals, and then the winners and losers will play against each other. The winners, that's only for seeding at Masters.
That's EU.
But maybe, but they're potentially.
It's just EU. Like, we all know now. You got to surrender at that point. Like, listen, Season 2, EU win Worlds.
Yep.
Season 3, EU win finals. As in, we have
EU
both
final.
there. So,
Sure.
you know, it's just going to happen again.
Oh, is that how that works?
It has to. I'm not even European anymore. I'm
so
part
what
of the
happened
UK.
between? But so
you
what
know,
happened?
I'm part of the UK. I'm impartial. I am no longer European.
Right. Of
just
course.
as a heads up. Thank you so much, my country. So
of course.
I can make impartial statements here.
But what happened between Season 1 and Season 2? Why didn't NA just do it again then?
Ah, we chilled.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
We took our foot off the gas, kind of like Energy did for the start of the spring play. Or did they? We'll find that out tomorrow. Sorry, Sunday, I should say. Final siege from Memory of Gabe coming in here, potentially, but SoaR trying to put up a defense to the best of their ability. The amount of ults being used by Memory of Gabe here, I was about to say, they're not finding anything that they really want to. This could be a bit messy.
But the Titan is still getting pretty low. Whalrus still completely healthy. They're messing around a little bit, but Gabe still going to be able to secure game 1 here up against SoaR in dominant fashion, 20-3.
20-3 indeed, less than 28 minutes in as well. run back through that game, there's not really massive amounts for us to go over. We saw the first blood that happened onto Andinster when they walked too far forward at the beginning of the game. And from that moment on, Homiefe lost his jungle, was behind, couldn't get anything going on Thanatos. Meanwhile, he couldn't help out his mid laner, who Andy did very well for himself. But Vetium was also behind too, and he was just pillar to post. They were just pushing them back from every angle.
There just wasn't any pressure anywhere on the map for SoaR. I'd like to see, I know fineokay really does like to play this Terra, these Guardians in the solo lane, but I would love to see him on a pressure god. You've seen what Osiris can do for these teams. I mean, Aquarius almost single-handedly won their game against Oxygen Supremacy with it.
To be fair, if fineokay was on any other character there, would it really made a difference with how that game went?
Likely not, but at least you have a chance. Maybe Homiefe can then lean on fineokay and help him invade enemy buffs on that right-hand side while Cynosure is invading the left, get Homie a little bit of guaranteed farm, and then try and make something happen from there. Either way, SoaR needed pressure somewhere, and when you only draft one lane that's supposed to have pressure, and then that lane doesn't get pressure, that's what happens.
Well, the best news is this is a best of 3 for SoaR, but game 1, we're going to break it down with the analysts, and they're going to talk about all the highlights that were put on from Gabe, I guess.
I mean, really when it comes down to it, this job is oftentimes more difficult than it seems. We got to keep notes, we got to look at stats, we got to do a lot of stuff. It's not just come up here and talk. This game, I just come up here and talk. Basically, SoaR got beat. That's my official analysis. How you feeling about that one, Taco?
I mean, for starters, Chad probably thinks that these notepads are empty for beginners, but we do actually write things down. Like, it's actually full pages of stuff going down here. But I think my biggest complaint is, like King Aggro and Hindu mentioned, is these teams just had, or SoaR had no pressure whatsoever anywhere on the map, and it just overall led to absolutely devastating jungle fights. They kept consistently losing buffs, and just over and over again, there's no way for them to capitalize onto anything.
For me, I loved the jungle pick. Obviously, I'm Mr. Thanatos, but real talk, I think that the Thanatos pick was a good choice against the Thor in a vacuum. But Smite is not played in a vacuum, despite the fact that Thanatos is the anti-Thor in a lot of ways. The ultimate can follow him across semi-global, he can silence out the Zerka's barrage, and you're going to get some damage back with the Death Scythe. Just wasn't enough control for the immobile Zeus and Artemis. Again, I asked you during picks and bans, you've had some time to think now, maybe even talk to Coach Drelo. What jungler do you think would have provided the control that they needed?
I talked back to Drelo. I came up with, they had 4 gods with no pressure. The one god that they did have pressure on was Thanatos. The one that had decent clear was Zeus. Died in the first minute. The game was over.
Yeah, I mean, it really was that simple, unfortunately. 3 kills in total for SoaR. This is a team, when you read down the roster, Vetium, when you read down the mid laner, Andy, Homiefe, these guys aren't supposed to be toppled like that. What caused this situation?
Just like Japa mentioned, as soon as that Zeus took that spill and early on, it just completely led to SoaR not being able to exert any of the map pressure that they would have ideally wanted, just to buy themselves a little bit of time, get the Terra online, get the Artemis online. But when you're falling behind early on, there's no way for you to really roll back into things. And I just want to see SoaR not pick so passively.
Yeah.
They're too aggressive of players.
I agree with that. Of course, if SoaR is dropping the ball, somebody has to pick it up. It's Wally Man Whalrus hanging out in the solo lane. Whalrus just went off. This guy has been one of my favorite players to watch in all of Season 4. Here he is. Look, the man even got a haircut for this land. He knows he's coming out. He knows he's going to be on top for a while. And this is going to be a big deal. In fact, when we watched In Memory of Gabe, and they lost earlier against the challenger team, it was Whalrus, the one that was doing the work. Unfortunately, he was on the Odin. You give him a character, and this guy who was on Noble last year, one of the lower-ended teams, now could be the reason that his team makes it to the end. You flirted with solo lane for a little bit, Mr. Transcendence Tier. What do you like about Whalrus' game?
He's aggressive. I mean, if you think about Whalrus, you think about Osiris, you think about Hercules, you think about, an aggressive playstyle, which I love. I mean, I hate playing Terra as a Guardians. Come on, like, you're gonna lose your blue squad. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I like the way he played Vamana. He got the dream. He got ahead early. What do? You just go straight to the back line, big baby, and you stomp people's faces.
That's his job. That's his goal. That's his dream across.